Okay,
We're
guys,
live.
we are live, it tells me. And it tells me my internet signal is weak, so if I drop off, just keep the conversation going, I guess.
2 days
Okay.
later.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. 2 days
Have
later,
you met
everybody's still
us?
talking. Yeah. Okay,
We
so
can
I
keep
guess
talking.
yeah, we all can. That's why we all have podcasts and stuff. Since this is my gig, I guess I'll say welcome to Tidbits and Scribbles. And tonight, nobody really needed to like brainstorm, I guess. So we can talk about some topics like current projects we're working on. And then we talked in the green room about series and why readers want series and why they don't want, and they don't even want to read a book until the series is finished. And why that's so frustrating to authors.
This is true. Not everything
Yeah,
has to be
like-
part of a series.
It doesn't? Oh.
No.
Says the person who has
Oh.
2 of them going.
5, but who's counting?
I've
a
got
couple.
2, but I haven't gotten past the first one yet, so.
Okay.
That's
Well,
why
and
I
that was
always write
something-
the second book first. Then I go back and write the first book.
Well, I'll write the first one, see if anybody likes it.
That's called a prequel, Dan.
I know.
Yeah.
That's how they do Star Wars, right?
Well, I
Well,
can't
right,
help
like
it if I get to know the
everything.
characters much better in
Yeah.
the first thing that I write, and then I can go back and write the second one, the prequel,
Yeah.
so that
The
it's
second that is the first. Yeah.
it ties in much better with what I've already written. And yes, I
But that-
did get 2,200 words last night, thanks to being here a couple of weeks ago. So
Nice.
yes,
That's the whole point. I want us to get our books written, get them done, because we all have those projects. We all have projects on the burner, on the back burner, and we've got like 9 irons in the fire at the same time.
yes.
So the idea was, let's get it done. What are you working on that's close to fruition that we can get done? Like mine
My
that I keep
part-
saying is going to
yeah.
be out at the end of March, like might be April.
My project is poking Carl to get his done.
Yeah.
How
He
much
says he's
poking
working
have you
on it, though.
had to do?
He's got it 3/4 done.
So the knitting needle works.
It's working.
Actually, it's that big old sword. That way I don't have to be too close to him.
6 feet distance.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Social distance, yes. So what works for me is the better than yesterday thing. And I think you guys have all heard me say it. It's I do it with my diet. I do it with everything in life. Now that I know it works. But basically you take it as if yesterday I had 2 sodas, today I'm only gonna have 1. If yesterday I had 1, today I'm not gonna have any. Let's see how that goes. Because that's something that I want to cut out of my diet. So with writing, it's the same thing. Did I write 2 words yesterday? Well, today I'm going to write 4 words. And it sounds ridiculous, but it gets you in a habit. It keeps you in a habit. And as you go, you'll do more and more and more. And pretty soon, it'll be, I wrote 500 words, and I write 500 words consistently every day. The
Mhm.
problem is the consistency.
Well, I was ready to call it a night yesterday after 1,200 words, and then I went back and I'll go, hey, somebody's talking to me. Let me write down what they're saying. And wound up with an extra 1,000 on top of that.
Nice.
Very good.
It's nice.
Well done.
I think
Is anybody-
having such a backlog has made me lazy because each series already has 7 or 8 books already written, and they've only one's got 4 published, and others only got 3, alongside all the extracurricular stories that I have
Hmm.
already written. And I think that's why it's taken me 2 years to write on this last Hunter's Ridge book.
Yeah, I can see that because how do you pick? What do you finish up first?
Well, yeah, they're all finished, so I can take my time with this one.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else
And-
have any things that work? Or?
That work? No.
That's, Well, I was going to say that I took a look at all the stuff that I have on my plate, and feeling, the weight of impending doom. It's like I want to get this crap off of my plate, and so I made a concerted effort to write as much as I can right now. I'm kind of foregoing editing for the most part right now. And I've got like 2 or 3 book projects that I'm kind of pushing, but I've got a short story I know I can get done because I thought originally I had till July to write it, and then they said, "Oh no, everybody else has got their stories in. We're just waiting on you." And I'm like, "Well, crap." So so I've written 5,000 words out of a 10,000 word story in the last 4 days. So
That's
Good.
nice.
yeah, I plotted this one out to death. And of course, now I'm in that phase where I'm writing and I'm ignoring my my outline because I like to
Yeah.
be surprised.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping by the time they dig us out after the snowstorm that I'll have the this thing finished, and then I've got like a couple more book projects I've got to get done. One for me, one for someone else. So
Carl evidently recommends boredom.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what that snowstorm will do for me, is because if I can't do anything else, I can't clean the house anymore. It's already clean. It's been clean. I have to sit down and do it. It's like the ultimate procrastination. And I think if I get to the point where, oh, I've got a deadline and it's looming, then I'm like, oh, I must write. Whereas before I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
That's
You
how
know,
I am with
press-
it too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Or I'll give myself a more important task. I'll be like, okay, I gotta write. And then I'm like not writing. So I'm like, okay, I've got to do this bigger project. And then in order to procrastinate on that bigger project, I write.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
well done.
But yes, Carl, I think you're right.
you.
We suggested that if a reader wanted to wait until you finish the series, don't tell them it's 3 out of 10 possible books. Say this is the series. So with me, we brought that up in the green room because I had a customer say, well, these aren't all of the series. How many is in the series? I don't know. I'm still writing. And as long as these stories are still coming to me, there's more in the series. And there may be novellas, offshoots of the series. So there's always going to be more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's, Amy, do you come across that with the hidden Havenwood Falls?
Yeah, although I say with Havenwood Falls, I think people are really overwhelmed by how many books there are.
Right.
But which is why we try to stress that they're standalone stories that are just all interconnected. So, you know, if you don't like vampires, you can read about dragons. If you don't like dragons, you can read about ghosts or witches or whatever. There's enough
First one I bought was
variety.
vampires.
Yeah, so you can you can read about whatever you want in the series, and you can even read, you know, we've got the 4 different lines even. So there's the YA and the new adult, and so there's a lot of variety there. So we don't have that complaint quite so much with Havenwood Falls, with the exception of people want longer stories, because most of them are novella size, and people complain that they're too short and they want a longer book or whatever for that character. Now with Shadows of Jane, with the Shadows trilogy, I did have that complaint that people wanted to wait until they were all finished. And that's super annoying. Not because, you know, I understand wanting to wait, but if the book doesn't sell well, it's really not happening. Especially with this book, because if one doesn't sell well, you're not getting help. And so that's something I go to readers. If you're with this book, and book one doesn't sell well, there won't be enough. So if they're waiting on the all this out, that won't happen.
Is anybody else losing Amy, or is that just me?
No, it's she's.
Oh no,
It's
it
popped
was
out.
very, very quiet.
Oh,
Okay,
are you
really
losing
quiet,
me?
Amy.
Now you sound fine.
Okay,
Yeah, now
maybe
you're
I just
fine.
need to scoot closer to the microphone.
Maybe, yeah, because you're fine now. I just wanted to make
Okay.
sure it was maybe you.
You were
or
just
me
very
or-
quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's the thing is they don't. I don't think readers understand that. Like if they don't buy book number 1, I can't write book number 2 because I can't
Yeah.
justify the cost.
Yeah. There's no
You
money
know,
there for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and publishers are the same way. If book number 1 flops because no one bought it because they're waiting for book number 3, they're not going to publish book number 2, let alone 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And I get how readers wouldn't know that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like, you look at, like, say the Marvel movies and how many there are. People didn't go see the first one because they wanted to wait for all the rest of them to come out.
Mhm.
Because if they did, there wouldn't be no more movies. You know,
Right.
they each project helps fund the next one, and that's just
Mhm.
not something that people, I think, really think about.
Yeah.
And it's that whole instant gratification society that we have now, where everything has to
Yeah.
be, you know, we binge watch entire series in, you know, an evening or whatever, and it's kind of ruined us that way.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not
Yes,
complaining.
yeah.
I like binge watching my favorite stuff.
You're
But at the
right,
same
right.
time,
And I
it
do
has-
too.
It has ruined me for, you know, for
Having to
Mhm.
wait a week for
patient
the
on
next
things.
episode.
Yeah.
Right.
When I was a kid, we had to wait an entire week to find out what happened on Incredible
Yeah.
Hulk or whatever I was
Yeah.
watching at the time, you know.
Yeah.
And if
And
the
when it was a
president was
season
giving a
finale-
speech, you had to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, the president was
Barefoot in the
doing
snow, naked
He
both ways. Yeah.
completely screwed up my
Standing out there
schedule for
turning the
weeks.
antenna pole.
Yes.
Wrapping the
We're giving
tinfoil
away
around
our
the
You guys had a
area.
rough childhood.
Yeah.
It
we
was
All I
did.
had to do
It
was
was
turn
brutal.
dials.
Oh,
We
honey,
didn't
Brutal.
record anything.
we
there was
had
no
2
DVR.
channels. Rich
Hey, we
people
had
had
3.
3.
We had 3.
See, rich people had 3.
We were
One
And
was
I had
CBS
the
and the other one
remote control at
wasn't.
my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got up and changed the channel for my parents.
Yeah.
I was the remote
to the
control.
great big box TV. Yes.
With the little rabbit ears.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, we're
so
showing
it
our
is-
age.
Oh,
it
we had
is
one
impinging.
year. We had 1 year. Mom hooked up the power cord to the electric percolator to the back of the TV and got better signal than the antenna.
Really? That's great.
I mean, it's this 4-foot long cord, you know, with cloth binding on the outside,
Yeah.
and it picked up better than the $200 antenna that Dad had bought. So
We used a
Hilarious.
hanger, a metal hanger.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll do it.
See, I'm not that young, guys.
See, that's what I
Oh.
keep telling them. I'm like, listen, I'm not that young. We did have, but we were poor folk, so you know.
That
we
is,
didn't
my
have
grandma raised
all the
me,
nice
so
things.
she had all of the older stuff that
Yeah, because it still works.
she had previously, and we
Mhm.
used it. So if I wanted color TV, I had to adjust the tint on my TV to make it
Yeah.
kind of colorful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
we had one black and white TV that got passed down through 3 generations. Yeah, I swear,
I remember those.
I watched the same TV set at my grandmother's house, and then when my family moved to Georgia, we watched the Armstrong and Aldrin walk on the moon on this same TV set. And then when I moved out of the house after college, I had the same TV set.
That's when
Yeah,
they built stuff
passed
to
down,
last.
Yeah, really.
So
RCA
how do we as authors combat that with the readers wanting that next book, that whole series finished?
Don't tell them
What-
you're working on the next book yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
Tell them this is
Right.
all there is right now.
Mhm.
Maybe there'll be another one. I'll let you know if you want to join my mailing list.
Yeah, I've done that.
Or
That
you
works
can
great
build.
if you don't have your like books numbered on your cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's a bit of
Yeah.
an issue, but
Or,
Yeah.
or
I
you do
saw
like I do
something.
and develop arrogance and say this: you'll take what you're given. Whatever I feel like
Yeah.
writing, that is what you will
I do
read
like
and deal
that
with.
theory.
Oh no,
I-
you put the number 14 on the spine of the first book and make them hunt for the rest.
I shouldn't say that because one of my projects this year is an anthology about a character I created who, by the time we see him in the 70s, he's about 250 years old. So he's got like crap loads of adventures behind him, but I'm only dealing with this one decade because that's what everyone wanted to write in. So I'm a genius. I'm a marketing genius. I tell you, follow me for more hacks.
Oh, Carl, I think there was more than 3 people that demanded a sequel.
Yeah, there were
I
more.
know I was one.
Yeah.
I definitely was one.
So there's at least 6 in this room. So there you go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to push you about it. That's all.
I just wanted to read another good story from the guy. I had no malicious
Sorry for
intent
this,
in
by the
mind.
way.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, you have a gremlin.
Yeah, the mini Keisha.
I do.
Yes.
I definitely gave birth to a younger me. That is a scary thought. Don't want to go there.
You have not met my daughter.
Move out.
Your
College
daughter's
is
a
never
delight,
far
Amy.
away.
Yeah, I was gonna say just ask Brian. My daughter is not.
She is a delight. Of course, I can say that because I'm 5 hours away from her.
Yeah,
and,
you don't. You're not related. Yeah.
Nope.
No.
I'm not related to anybody on this planet.
Well, sometimes genes have nothing to do with it, because my mom's favorite saying was, if I didn't know better, I'd swear you belong to your dad.
Yeah, see, we say that with my nephew. My nephew is my brother-in-law's stepson. You'd never know that it was stepson. Like, you'd think those genes were his. Holy crap. But,
Well, there's a way for that to happen.
There is. But when is your most current project due? What's your deadline?
Well, the one I'm working on right now, the deadline was about 6 months ago.
Well, make a new deadline because I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah, well, that was
Did I
a
say that part
self-imposed
out loud?
deadline. That was a self-imposed deadline, and the publisher.
Guys, I know
going,
those
hey,
deadlines
I
are
want
legitimate.
that. Hurry up and finish. So, what, Keisha?
I said I know those deadlines that she's writing down are going to be legitimate because you guys don't back down. I've met you.
No, we don't.
Well, and
No.
the reason I ask this is because I had someone come to me and say, those people on your panel, have they published anything recently? And I was kind of offended. I was like, listen, I do surround myself with people that are like me and willing to help others, but it doesn't mean that they're not putting stuff out themselves. Like, they're all doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you go to Amazon right now, Captain Hawkland and the Skyhook Remnant is currently on sale for 99 cents, and it has my name behind a Jeffrey Hayes cover, plasma fire graphics, when the look of your book matters to you, because it matters to your readers. # always promote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Name of the Father just came out in December, so
Right?
I will have a Beth and Hill book coming out in May.
Okay.
Well, I started the one I'm working on, I think, last January, was it? Or was it January before that? I was going to write one short story a month to go in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my publisher got wind of it. And he goes, hurry up and finish this. I want another one. And I ran into about 6 months where I wound up with about 6 months I couldn't write a word.
Yeah, I hate it when they say that. Do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's like giving
Amy, what are
information
you
to
working
the
on?
enemy, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, he just asked me what I was working on, and I said, well, I got this thing going here. It's kind of a challenge for me to do one a month. And he goes, oh, give me that now. I want it. I want it. I'm going, did the other one sell that well, or are you just a masochist?
He's looking for a tax dodge.
Oh.
Oh, yes. I promise I'm not going to title it Springtime for Hitler.
So
I
cool.
thought Brian would get that one.
Yes, I do. No, I do get that.
Yeah.
I can even
Me
sing
too.
it for you. I can even sing it for you.
Oh, so
I kind of
yeah,
like that myself.
that's that plate full of projects. Mine is broken,
From the sheer
But
weight.
that's okay.
smashed against the wall right now.
The truck's
I
got
haven't-
flat tires, honey. That's all I can say.
Yeah, we are not going anywhere. Yeah, things are kind of on hold right now while I'm adjusting to the new schedule.
Right.
Because physically I'm not recovering as fast, and I'm still worn out from COVID that I had in August. I have not gotten my strength back yet. So it is improving, but it's just real slow. So mentally and physically, I'm pretty worn out at the end of the day. But I have, thankfully, at least my brain is working when I sleep. I've been having some crazy dreams, and I've been waking up and writing them down because I think they'll make great stories. So I'm hoping if we do get, I don't want the ice storm, but if we do get it and I get stuck home for a couple of days, I'm going to take those 2 days to write as much as I can.
Yes.
But I'm just having to get in like little bits here and there, between getting home and trying to do my strength training and fixing dinner and prepping for tomorrow's work day. It's not what I'm used to. So I'm very kind of like out of my norm right now,
Right.
but I will figure it out because I'm too stubborn to not figure it out.
I was just going to say that kind of is what separates us from everyone else, is that even though we have all this other going on and we have to do the things that we don't want to do, we're
Yep.
still making it happen.
Yeah.
I had just gotten above 1,000 words last night, and Lindsay discovered that there is a new plumbing project that I need to undertake really quickly.
Of course.
And I'm going, honey,
Of course.
let's just put a bucket under it right now. I'm busy. And got out the other 1,200 words. Oh, Lord.
Well, that's honest to God. Honest to God. I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm typing away when the furnace goes, and I was like,
No.
it's
Yeah.
never made that noise before. And it's 2 a.m, or no, it was 1:30 in the morning. I'm typing away and I hear that noise and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm in the warmest room in the house because I'm above the furnace. So I step out my door and I'm like, oh, come on. The whole house is like 20 degrees cooler than this room. My husband normally gets up at 3:30 in the morning. It's 1:30 now. I'm like, oh no. So long story short, he missed a day of work, but the furnace is fixed.
Yeah.
But still, like, here I am right in the midst of it, and I'm going and I'm typing and I'm making progress and stop.
Yeah. That's like on the
Right.
day that you had your birthday thing.
Wile E.
was
Coyote
gonna start-
dropped a damn boulder in front of my truck.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The day of your birthday thing, I was going to be there at 6 and I was going to try to get some writing done beforehand because dinner was a quick and easy thing. And I go out to check on the chickens and the automatic chicken doors broke. So my chickens are going to be really cold if I can't figure the door out. So then we got to get it fixed. We got to put new batteries in. We have to get it all reset. And, we're out there with we can't even push the buttons. Our hands are so cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a disaster that
I
night.
need an automatic chicken door.
I love it when it works.
First, you gotta get the
I
automatic
am the
chickens.
automatic chicken door.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I am.
I'll tell you how to do that, Keisha. You find a window in the house that's close to the chicken coop and you run a string out there.
I would so do that. I 100% would. No, but my butt gets dressed fully and goes and opens up the barn door in the morning. Like
Oh,
they
no,
need to get
no,
out.
No. This girl's way too lazy for all that. So we have an automatic chicken door, and I have a camera in the coop. So at night I can count the chickens and make sure they're all there because I don't want to go out there when it's cold.
I just go
That
out there
would be
every night and go,
That
There's
would be the
Elvis,
most
there's
original
Blondie.
OnlyFans that I've ever started.
Yeah.
There you go.
Appealing to the chicken
You're missing out on
voyeurs
some
among you.
income here.
apparently we have an audience, Amy. Just chicks. Yep.
Just chicks.
All we're
Hey.
gonna do is post videos of our chicks.
Whatever.
I mean, I
floats
do
your boat,
have
you
ducks
know?
in there as well, but you know,
Ducks,
you get a
you
little side
pervert.
action. It's cool.
Dang it, Carl. Yes, Edgar Allan Poe would stop because the fire went out. Okay.
I mean, he's got to see.
He probably
Probably
set the
stop.
second fire.
Is he cold
Yeah, no
shaming?
kidding. He would be throwing his manuscript in there, getting that fire going again. Like, this is crap anyway. And then rewrite it because it's not crap, and he decided it wasn't crap. Yeah, like we all do. This is the worst crap I've ever written, and then you send it off to your critique partner, and they're like, "This is the best crap you've ever written." Okay, great. I didn't.
Oh, good.
That's how
Well, at least
Stephen
we
King
agree
started.
it's crap anyway.
You have
Right.
just uncovered my secret fear. This is the best crap I've ever written.
Yeah,
But it's still crap. Yeah.
yeah, that's a
It's
good
just
new
high
fan
quality
news thing.
crap.
Quality crap.
Have you ever come across? Here's a question that's been boggling me lately. Have you ever come across a writer that you thought was up here, and then you read some of their most recent work, and it brought them down a few pegs, and you're like, "Wait a minute." Have you ever come across that?
Aside from myself.
Yeah, aside from you.
Good question, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm over here thinking
You
in my
cannot
head,
lose
I am
yourself.
crap.
No,
but-
but I have run across writers whose work I admire, and then I found out they were crap,
Yeah.
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 That does
and
seem,
it affected how much I appreciated their work, which before I found out they were not very nice people, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
And I'm going, your parents didn't raise you right, did they?
Yeah, I unfortunately struggle
Yeah.
with that a lot with some of the people that I read from because I used to be obsessed with this one person. Came out with a book. No, Michaela, it's not you. I'm still obsessed with you. But
So say we all.
so I found out that like I went down the so-called Yeti hole and I did some research on her and I was like, oh, she stands for literally everything I hate. And I was like, can I really support her
good.
anymore? I was like,
Well, and here again,
I
this
still
is
have
where
her
we vote
book.
with
I
our
still thought
dollars.
her book was fantastic, but I'm like, do I really want to?
Well, I will say I have not stooped to using their books for toilet tissue in an emergency, but
I still have her book
I
up on my
haven't bought
shelf.
any of their newer stuff yet either. So, I think my collection of theirs has ended with what I already have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I've grown as a writer as well, I've gone back and I've read authors that I thought the stories were really good. And now that I'm a better writer, I've read their stories and I'm like, oh, you need a better editor. Ooh.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or wow, this is not. And it's difficult. It was difficult for me, Donna, when I first read your books because you write in a different way than I write. So when I first started reading your books, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I had to pull myself back a minute and say, wait, no. It doesn't have to be the way that I write.
Did I
And the
break
way
you,
that you
Michaela?
write. Huh?
Did I break you, Michaela? Because I feel like I would have broken you.
No.
I write.
No, honestly, Donna
That's
broke
fan-
me.
Just a couple of
Because-
dents.
So you broke her before me, so I didn't have to worry about
Yeah.
it. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Great.
So
I generally
Ronnie
do
was
that.
The first one I read that was supposed to be from like a looking glass, from you're seeing the whole thing. It's not one person's point of view or another. It's you see the whole thing. You know what everybody's thinking and what everybody's doing. Now, it's not the wrong way to tell a story, but it's not the way I.
The
tell
omniscient narrator trick, yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't. I
can't
don't
do
do
that.
the omniscient. I do
No.
the journal
Oh, okay.
where you don't say Sam was angry. You say Sam looked angry. That sort of thing.
Right. And so for
Who is that besides Q?
Yeah, put that in the private chat. So we don't have any slander against us.
Oh,
That's why I didn't name him.
Oh,
by
him.
name.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've met him. Yeah, Carl, I totally understand.
Oh,
You are.
him.
Oh,
The
And
thing,
his
Yeah,
wife
yeah,
is such a
different types of
darling.
sorry,
Is the thing.
yeah.
and he was a local writer,
Yeah. Hmm.
and then moved away. And it's like when he moved away, he broke all ties with his
Hey,
roots.
Carl, you might want to take that one out of the public comments.
No, that's in the private chat, isn't it?
It's in both.
No, that's
he only put
Oh.
the first name and the last initial in the public.
I did not have any trouble figuring it out. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody
Yeah.
else did
Yeah.
either.
If
Most
they know
most
Star Trek,
will.
they'll know who it
Yeah,
is.
I am not the
Solid.
sharpest knife in the drawer, and I did
I
not.
didn't realize he was a.
timeout.
Yeah, put him in
That's
timeout.
awesome.
All the power. No, I've gone to the same thing, except fortunately I found out these people were total crap bags before I bought a lot of their work. Well, I take it back. There is one person that I used to buy their stuff like back in the 70s, and I was a huge fan of it. Then, like, they're still active. Well, semi-active, I should say. And I have heard so much about them as people, as a person. And it's somebody that probably within about 3 minutes I'd be beating this guy with a chair because he's even more rude than I can be.
But that brings up a point of what are you against the person or against the art?
I know Will. What is his name? That was on the new Star Trek.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton did
Yeah.
an article about separating the art from the artist.
Yeah,
And it
that
was
good.
really good because it talked about there are a lot of things that get me going, and I get upset and I have to step back, but I think maybe it depends on how offensive the person is to you on whether or not you can still support them, at least to an extent.
Mhm.
I can think of at least two people that I don't mind talking to at a convention, but I disagree with them so strongly. I'm never going to buy any of their books.
Yeah.
I can think of one.
Yeah.
It's,
And that's separating the person from their art. And I'm not going to support you here, but I can be kind to your face, and we can be adults about it.
Right.
As long as you're not getting in my face and being a jerk,
Yeah, all I have to do is avoid the topics that I disagree with them on.
Yeah, and that's not
Mhm.
hard to do, if you make the effort.
Yeah, well,
But-
being forewarned is forearmed.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about reading books that are, you read them later and you were kind of like, I've done that with some authors that I still like. I think they're great. I went back and I read it and I found things that bug me now that, like you said, now that I've grown as a writer. But at the same time, those are things I know I've done in past books as well.
Oh yeah.
And it actually kind of encourages me because I look at it as, well, see, they were learning too, or see, we all have these steps that we have to take as writers. And this was probably another step for them as they continued to hopefully grow in their craft. So I try to look at that as encouraging when I see, despite the fact that you're a little disappointed because, that pedestal got a little shorter.
Right. Right.
But it can be encouraging if you look at it right, I think.
I was just going to say that because this one in particular that really struck me, I look up to her. I like her books. I mean, they're really good. And then I read one of the most recent and I was like, but I put you on this pedestal that you deserved to be on. What happened? It made me want to say, oh my gosh, did something happen? Did you change the way that you write? Did you use a different editor? Did you use a different critique partner?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of noticing.
She listened to the wrong music while she was writing.
Something.
The ghostwriter died.
And maybe
that's
she
the
just
other
tried
thing.
something different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what I wondered. It's like, what changed about this book compared to the other books that you've written? Or again, did that writer maybe pass away or get too old to write books and now is using a ghostwriter?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or too busy to write books? Or
Yeah.
it makes you wonder. Wait a minute, this isn't your style.
Yeah.
That, you know,
Keith Laumer's work went downhill as far as the writing went after he had his stroke.
Yeah.
And he wound up revisiting his short stories and turning them into novels. But it was the same 3 novels over and over again
Mm.
with different names and,
Mhm.
file off the serial numbers and just wedge these
Package.
characters in. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Mommy,
think that
Daddy,
has
he
another.
he knew what was going on. He knew that he was no longer at the top of his form. He just wanted to develop these short stories the best he could.
And now we'll bring
And,
Carl.
But
in. Hey, Carl.
that's what I appreciated about Robert B. Parker's family when he died a little unexpectedly and still had several books left that he had notes on. They were right up front with, "Hey, this person's taken over this series, and they're going to finish, what he'd started, and then that's going to be it." And the writers that they got were true to his style.
Mhm.
So it was almost like he was still there and finished his books.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good
Sometimes-
forethought, especially for us that do it professionally.
Mhm.
Have somebody waiting in the wings that, hey, if I can't finish this, can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 that's
why
I
it pays to have
copious
outlines.
notes on all my
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
Same here.
If anything ever
Yeah.
happens to me, if somebody wants to take the trouble to attempt to write the way I do, I've still got all the background shit for them to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That makes
sometimes
a
you
big
try
difference.
new stuff, and like I was mostly with paranormal there for a while, and I got an idea for a rom-com, and I thought, what the heck, why not?
Yeah.
And I tried it, and I wrote for the first time in first person, which I had not done a first person point of view before, and it was a lot of fun. But I mean, there were people that loved it, and there were people that absolutely hated it.
Oh, I've got people that
Always gonna have
refuse
that.
to read any of my stuff because I write mostly in first person.
I love writing
But
in first person
it's
now,
the
but I
easiest
just
way
hadn't
for
done
me
it.
to get in the narrator's head is to have the narrator be the main
Yeah.
character.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
No,
Lots
no,
of
not
books
at
are
all.
written that way.
But
Yeah.
there are people that just cannot stand that, and
Yeah.
I'm going. Well,
And then there are
your
people that don't like
loss.
third person narration. So
Yeah.
you can't
Or
please
present
everybody.
tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my bugaboos. But I do know an author who uses present tense a lot. If I can slog through the first page and a half, I can get into the story. But until then, it's an uncomfortable journey for me.
Yeah.
You should have been around when I was trying to learn the difference between past tense and passive voice.
Oh, passive voice is my current bugaboo. It
Oh.
has been for several years.
I-
I find my favorite authors, like from the 30s and 40s, wrote passive verbs all over the place, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
God,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where I picked it up.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and
passive
look
voice and I have a fight on a regular basis.
I just go, look, whoever my editor is, I slip into passive voice and I can't tell when I'm doing it. So just let me know.
That brings up the other point of that's why you get an editor, is because it's a fresh pair of eyes. It's somebody that hasn't seen it yet.
Yep.
And you can read it 1,000 times, but in your head it reads correctly because you know what you want it to say.
You know what you wanted it to be,
Right.
and your eyes gloss over where you failed to reach that objective.
Yeah. Your brain fills it in. It's kind of like those what are those memes where you see somebody writes a sentence and it's numbers and backwards letters and all that.
Yeah.
And your brain knows what it says even though it's not correct. And it's the same way with your own manuscript. Your brain knows what that should say and it'll fill in missing words and everything.
Oh yeah.
I saw it just today with a
great
meme.
about
Somebody
finding those
said
mistakes.
with even something as simple as a meme on Facebook, somebody said something about leaving the country, but they spelled it wrong. County is what it said. So it said something about leaving the county. And people were like, oh, I'd go to Ireland, I'd go here, I'd go there. And it's like, did not one of you see that there's no R in that word? It said county. What county would you want to move to? And they're all like, Ireland and Switzerland and Scotland.
Well, everybody knows there's a
What
high
county is
editing
Scotland?
standard for memes, so yeah.
Yeah, really.
Exactly.
Hey,
Yeah, your brain
if it
fills
doesn't
in.
have at least 2 typos, it's not a real meme.
That's
True.
right. There's a standard to be upheld.
And some computer
And
wrote that.
a stolen photo off of the internet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too.
That just goes without saying.
Preferably something watermarked.
I'll be
Yes.
right back.
Okay.
Okay.
You were talking about hard to read writing, and one of the principles of psychology, of course, since that was my study, was rational emotive therapy, and one of the main writers in that is Albert Ellis, and he wrote a book called A Guide to Rational Living. And one of the principles of that therapy is that you don't say she is mean, you say she acted mean, or she
Yes.
did mean things. Okay.
Separates the
But you-
person from the action.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And to do that, he wrote the entire book, Guide to Rational Living, without using any of the to be. Okay. So he could not use is, was, or any words like that.
Nice.
The whole thing was very stilted, though. And when you're reading it, you're like, oh man, that's not how I want to say this sentence.
Yeah.
But he was very devoted to that ideal.
Mhm.
And because of it, it's a very difficult book to read for anybody who doesn't understand what he was trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I've got a buddy
Yeah.
who was writing for Marvel.com, Marvel Comics, their website, and he was doing like histories of the various characters in the Marvel universe. And he told me that his editor would send the manuscript back if there was even one passive verb in it.
Mm.
I
Wow.
couldn't do it. I
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
it's hard.
You're the editor. Help fix that. Help teach how to fix that.
Well, that's true. That's true. And he did, he got a lot published, so eventually it took, but
Right.
I'd have probably thrown myself in front of a bus long before he quit, so.
And there's nothing wrong with some passive verbs every once in a while.
No, especially in dialogue.
Language.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing I was going to say is the dialogue and the language now has changed so much. Like you read Edgar Allan Poe, and if you don't have the attention span for it, you're not going to read it very long
Mm-hmm.
because you have to understand what they were saying because they don't talk that way now. But back then, that was the way they talked, and it was common.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Oh, Edgar Allan Poe writes differently than everyone else. No, he wrote like everyone else did then.
Mhm.
And that's like during the 80s, I think it was, there was a wave of we don't like Shakespeare because he wrote in iambic pentameter. Yeah, okay, that was as a poet, that's what I loved about Shakespeare's
Yeah.
poetry was the iambic pentameter and the rhythm of it.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
I think a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, I think a lot of modern readers, when they think of an iambic pentameter, they read it like Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And they don't think about the fact that it existed before that. And so it makes it difficult for modern readers to get a hold of Shakespeare and to get into that rhythm and to know how to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that's why I like the way Phantasmagoria goes about it.
Mhm.
You know, they speak it, but it's also a show. You know, they're living it, and that makes it come alive for more people than it would if you just read it. You know, or you handed them the phrase or whatever and said, "Here, read this." 90% of them wouldn't understand it these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I miss them.
Huh? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I miss watching
Yeah.
them. A lot of times I have to do something else. Let's see. What else I have written down?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Carl.
I have a tool.
Uh-huh.
If we have a break here, this
Yeah.
is Sisson's Word and Expression Locator.
Okay.
Okay, just look for that name and you'll find it. I don't know if it's still being printed or not, but this is like a dictionary and like a thesaurus. If they had an illegitimate child, this book would be it.
Who said they don't?
So you get this, you get L. Okay, so you go to there, and let's say you want to say the word land, but you don't want to say the word land in your book. This has it as an adjective and a noun. So an adjective would be agrarian, patrial, terrestrial, things like that. Terculus. I've never heard of Terculus before, but okay. Then as a noun, it would be domain, dominion, earth, estate, property, real estate. But under that, it says land and water. So it would be amphibian or terrestrial. Okay.
What about as a verb, though?
It doesn't have land as a verb in this particular one, but it should. Yeah. Land holding would be barony. Landmark would be a cairn. Landscape, you could use panorama or scenery. And promised land is Canaan. So this also helps you look up things you don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, through back and forth, you're looking up. Yeah, it really is helpful for those kind of things. So if you're ever really stuck on a word, or like Donna will say, what's that word that means such and such? And if I can't think of it within a few minutes, I'll grab this book. And now I've given her my secret. But that doesn't happen very often. I usually can think of what she's trying to think. But.
That's where that book went.
Oh.
There are two copies of this. There are two copies of this book in this house somewhere. So
they're both in Carl's office.
I got everything else.
Both in Carl's hand.
Yeah.
But Brian, I don't have yours. When is your next project due out?
As soon as I get it done. No. The one project I'm working on now, which is kind of semi-quasi secret, it's not the thing we know about, not my ghostwriting thing, but one will be on July. It's a science fiction thing I'm working on. The Terrors, which I've been serializing on my Patreon account. The first draft of it is completely done. I'm currently editing that, and if I do a Kickstarter, it will be on the second quarter of the year. If I don't do a Kickstarter, I'm hoping to have it out in late March, early April, because I already have the cover in hand, and it is bleeping gorgeous. By Jeffrey Hayes, of course.
To April, unless you get that Kickstarter going. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and in that case, I probably Well, the Kickstarter is mostly to increase my mailing list and expose the book to people who might not know about me otherwise. Because having worked with some people on Kickstarter, on their Kickstarter projects, that there is a substantial number of people that roam Kickstarter looking for specific things. Like most of the projects I've been involved with are comic book in nature, and it's not unusual for the projects to get like 75% or more of their funding from people who are just going through Kickstarter and, let's see what's new in Kickstarter. Right. Same thing with Indiegogo. So I'm seriously thinking about doing that, and I'm doing a side project that one of the things that'll delay it will be the side project, which is kind of I'm going to use a term that I'm sure no one here, maybe Dan might know, but the Marvel back in the 90s did a series called The Official Handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
Dan? Yeah. Okay. Dan knows what I'm talking about. And it's basically, it lists a character or in this case, it'll be a setting or whatever, and then gives you kind of a highlighted history of the character, and it's basically my background notes on everything.
Yep. And the appearance of every appearance of that character that they can remember.
Yeah. And fortunately, I've got a couple artists I can call on to work cheap, so that'll be one of the incentives for the Kickstarter campaign. And then I've got like a whole bunch of short stories that I'm going to be polishing up and probably releasing in short book form, and eventually bundling them into a larger book as we go down the year. In fact, I've got a couple of people that have been sitting on a couple of my stories for a couple of years and have made no move to get their books out. So I'm going to take them back.
Good. Good. You should.
Yeah. And then I've got one more proposal that I'm hoping to get done by the end of February for Flinch Books. It's going to be kind of a sequel to the Quest for the Space Gods that I'm writing. And then by the end of the year, at a time that I have not decided yet, I am going to either finish Aquatic, my fantasy romance book, or I am going to finish Volcana 2. One or the other.
Wow.
So I've got it written down, so I'm going to hold you to it.
By all means, please do. Please do.
Hold your feet to the fire.
By all means. I work well under pressure, so...
He's got cold feet anyway, so...
That's right. That's right.
I heard
Cookie could use the help.
That's how I know.
Now, Amy, since you had to go back to work at a different job, do you need our help with anything as far as motivating you or pushing you to get anything done? Or do you need help getting stuff done?
I should probably definitely set a goal to try and at least get a good first draft done. I don't know how much time I'll have in evenings and weekends, but I'm going to try to sneak in every time I can and get some writing finished. So I guess I'm going to see, what do we got? We're starting February.
Tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm going to say by the end of April, I want to have a first draft done of something.
Okay.
I've got 2 books I've started. I've got other stuff that's, kind of in the wings waiting. And I tend to write on whatever is, pressing on my brain at the time.
Right.
So since I don't have any deadlines, I haven't announced any releases or anything, I can work on whatever I want at this point. So yeah, that'll be my goal. End of April, have a complete first draft ready to go to an editor, or at least ready for another round of my own editing before I go to an editor. So that'll be my goal. The one thing about this current job that I've got is freeing up money to spend on editing and covers and things that was a little more of a struggle before. And I do potentially have a personal assistant in the wings that's going to help me take care of social media because I don't have time to do it at all now. So that will free some things up as well, and give me more time to write because I won't have to worry about that side of it.
Great.
Cool. So it's all kind of up in the air right now, but you know how it is when you're starting something new. You have to just kind of feel your way through it at first.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all good changes. I mean, they're things that we needed, and I miss being around all the time, but I also know that this is good for me too. So
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you come up with next, because you are a writer that doesn't stick with just like I have right now. I'm paranormal romance, and everybody knows that, or historical paranormal. It's about to go 8 because there's other things in the works that nobody knows about, or I haven't announced yet. But I'm excited. I like the excitement of it. And one thing I said to another friend of mine, she was kind of wishy-washy, kind of like, yeah, I like to write, but right now I'm just not in a headspace. And I said, so what gets you in the headspace? And she's like, well, it used to be fun. It used to be something I like to do. Okay, why isn't it fun? Always be reason. Why isn't it fun? Why are you doing it? And then all of a sudden she was like, if I get back to I write stories because I want to, rather than I write stories because I must write stories, my readers expect one story every year, at least, bare minimum. And she's got all that pressure. As soon as she went, wait a minute, back up. I can write stories and get them out whenever I get them out. Now it's fun again. Now it's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, follow your characters on their adventures. Write a feedback report.
And I think readers can definitely tell when you're forcing it.
Oh yeah.
You're just
trust
not.
is totally forced.
Yeah, it's not as genuine. It's not as fun for you, so it's not as fun for the reader. That comes across.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, if something interests you, do it. I was advised very strongly by several people not to change genres, or if I was going to have a different pen name for each genre. But I realize that there are people that don't like psychological thrillers, and it's very different from what I've written in the past to an extent. I mean, paranormal, it's not a huge leap to thriller. But
really.
There's no romance in this, and that's where that really veers off course. But it has been the most fun I've had in a long time writing.
Sure.
And I think it's one of my best books, honestly.
It was great.
So,
Great.
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't know, because I like the Shadow King so much.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it wasn't. It might have been out of your genre, but it was still you. It was still your style.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could still tell it was an Amy Hale book if you're used to reading my work, but it was just a different subject matter that I tackled, and that was a lot of fun. The rom-coms were a lot of fun. Are they my highest selling books? No, but they were fun, and they were a break between the other stuff. And it let me just kind of reset. It's kind of like, when you have a palate cleanser before another course. It gives you a chance to breathe a minute and then go, okay, I'm ready to get back to this now. I just needed to clear my head, do something different, and oddly enough, like the Catching Whitney, my first rom-com, I did that I did like no promotion. I was just messing around. I wanted to see what would happen. For about 6 months, that was my best-selling book. I was making a good bit of money off of Amazon on that one, which surprised me because I didn't even try to promote it. I was just like, oh, hey, by the way, here's a new book,
That's awesome.
And so, it's weird how that can happen, so if you have the urge to write something, do it. That might be the one thing that sets your career on the course that you're wanting.
Well, I also like writing different things because people will come up to my table and I ask them, well, what do you like to read? And they say, well, I like to read everything. I'll go, that's just what I write.
I write everything.
Really?
You won't find 2 books the same on this damn table.
Yeah.
I actually have it on my cards.
You want
I
one of
write
each?
stuff.
Exactly. You write
Yeah. Stop. Yeah.
Well, somebody said on a Facebook thing, they said, in horrible words, describe what it is that you do. And I said, I make shit up.
I'm a professional.
That's what I do. I make up worlds. I make up characters. I make up stories.
I lie
It's all
and people
up.
pay to hear it.
There you go. There you go.
I just take dictation from the voices in my head.
That's great. That's great.
I didn't worry too much about jumping genres, Amy, because, before I had written a lot of humor. I had written science fiction, which is not yet published, but will be someday. I had written a lot of nonfiction. I had written some things in the psychiatric, psychological area. I've written things about computers and particular computer programs. So anybody who would come up to our table would go, what's all this? I just got into this thriller thing very accidentally because I liked that story of that mad gasser, but thought it lacked motivation.
Yeah.
There was nothing in there to motivate the guy. So I made up motivation.
Yeah.
Serves you right
Michaela
for
said.
people asking for a sequel.
I know.
How dare you write a good book and people want more?
Damn it.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's heck being popular.
Well,
But yeah, I
my
guess
first
maybe I
book-
found something. Maybe I found something
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
like and that people would like more than a computer manual. How about
Yeah.
that?
Right, and you
Imagine
have
that.
a better understanding of the psychology of the way the brain works and the way people think than most people.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
It
yeah,
works.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that it came through there in that.
Yeah.
And then when you read this next one, you'll say, "Oh, the character has gotten worse." With a okay.
Like any
We're all like-
usually do.
bad
Some
guy,
people-
I'm concerned about Carl.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, some people, age like fine wine. This guy has gone straight to vinegar.
I like that.
Oh my.
So you'll love the ending.
Oh great.
Oh,
I
cool.
can't wait.
That'll be
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
And then the next project, I can finally get on to the next project because I hate working on multiple things at once, but I've had to when I was at work. And so now that I've retired, I'm like, now I'm going to work on one project at a time, and
Yeah.
finish.
so
them.
you were a one-trick pony. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe it was last year or year before. I was working on a sci-fi story and a fantasy story at the same time. When I stalled out on one, I'd go to the other.
Hmm. I do that a lot.
And see, that's what
And
I
then
do.
all
too,
the
yeah.
characters quit talking to me at one time. And I'm going,
Oh,
oh,
no.
where did you go?
Oh,
That's
no.
bad.
I need
That's bad.
you.
That's when you find new
But that's
friends to play
why-
with.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Yep.
that's I had somebody ask me because I was working on one ghostwriting project, and they came to me and said, "Will you ghostwrite for me after you're done?" And I said, "Well, I could work on it at the same time if you want. That's okay. I can get jump started on it." And she says, "Well, I don't want to burden you. You're already working on that one project." And I said, "Yes, but I can go from this project, and when it slows down in my head, I can jump over here,
Mhm.
and it's going
Yeah.
1,000 miles an hour. And when
Yeah.
that slows down, I can jump back over here, and it gives me a fresh look at what I was writing.
Mhm.
It gives me that fresh perspective of where was I going with this chapter? I needed to go
Yeah.
here. Where was I going?"
Mhm.
Does that help with guilt? I mean, like if you're working on one project and you're not working on it, okay? And you think, well, I
Yes,
should be working on that, but you can work on something else and say, okay, I did something.
I'd really like to be writing this one, but it's not happening. So I'm going to write this one.
if you're not,
Yeah, or which one has the
Some
tighter
authors-
deadline?
Yeah,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
and
who's
some of the
paying
others
me?
I follow,
Yeah.
Oh, I came up with a unique for me palette cleanser once I get the fantasy book finished.
No?
I mean, it's next in line after the one I'm working on now. I want to paint the cover.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
Very
have
cool.
not done an oil painting in 18 years,
Wow.
Wow.
and I miss it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Sure,
There you
yeah.
go.
Do it.
Yeah.
So
Do it. Go
Yeah,
for it.
that's
it's not got to be huge. I mean, it's maybe 11 by 17 is the ideal size, is what I've been told.
Nice.
yeah.
And just do the full wraparound cover, and let the publisher put the titles and the print on the spine and everything in.
Nice.
But I have been, and my mother has been after me to go back to painting. She hates the fact that I'm actually making a few dollars off of writing and I'm not painting anymore. So,
I can see that.
Well, make sure you leave room for those words because that's important.
Yes. Yes.
believe me,
Yeah, what I
I
was gonna say-
can't stop being a writer.
Right.
There's no,
Yeah,
I'll go
that's-
absolutely apeshit if I
No,
don't write this
I mean,
down.
when you do your cover, leave the words for
Oh,
the
yes.
title,
Yes.
and because
Oh, yeah.
I've
And
seen
bleed.
I've seen some folks do it, and then the title goes over, and it's like that's covering up something in the art.
Important.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've got enough of a design sense to know. All I got to do is ask them how much room they need, and what font size they're going to use, and I can shrink the main images down, and the rest of it's just pure background. It's architecture and
Oh, okay.
landscape in the background, and the only thing that's really
Yeah.
important is the two main characters right up front, and they've got to be, bottom center, basically,
Mhm.
maybe 2/3 of the way up the cover.
But that's what I was
That's
going to say is you'll see people post, I got 500 words today, or I got 1,500 words today is my word count.
Yeah.
They never tell you what project they're working on. And they didn't tell you, did they work on the same project they worked on yesterday? Or the same project they worked on half an hour ago? They just told
Right.
you word count. They're not telling you on what. And so if you're a new author, don't get discouraged by like, well, so and so got 500 words down today or 5,000 words down today. Yeah, but on what project? Is it the project that they were supposed to be working on? Like they're
Right.
hyping because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to hype what's coming out next. Maybe
true.
they didn't work on that today, but they did put
Yeah.
words down.
Yeah. Well, I had one night where I was filling in for somebody else at work, and they were doing data entry on a computer, and my normal job was just sitting watching a machine run, and their job took like 15 minutes every hour. So I had the other 45 minutes every hour that I had to fill up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a 10,000 word story in 12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah.
If like I say, boredom works,
Oh
It
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It's like I walked around, I did the product count, I came back in, I typed the numbers in the computer, and then I pulled up the word processor and went right back to where I was going. And got it was an entire self-contained 10,000 word short, and it wound up being a chapter in a larger novel later. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Not
how
all
you
of
do
us
it,
can
one
be.
chapter at a time. Yeah.
Not all of us can be Eric Asher, who recently posted that he wrote 65,000 words in 2 weeks.
He's a
Yeah,
stage to
he's
me.
just an overachiever.
And it's good stuff too. That's what's even
I know,
worse.
it doesn't even
Yeah.
suck. That's what's
God.
really sad about it.
I
But
used
did
to
he
call-
did he
I-
use all
I have
those
a big word
words?
count. I know that I've got people following me that are not the author that I am, or not at the level that I'm at yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they're coming up behind me, and so
Mhm.
I started doing that word count thing. That hey, I got 5,000 words done today, or three. I think it was 3,200 words in a day, and they were like, "Oh, how did you do that?" I'm like, "It just happens. I'm sorry. I sit down and I
Really?
type. It just happens." And 4 hours later, my kids are like, "Hey, we're hungry," because they're teenagers. We're hungry. But so I try not to put word count anymore, because if you think about it, just sitting down and getting some words done, you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with the people that I have following me, I have to remember some of them are brand new. Some of them are maybe not brand new, but still new, or struggling, or they've got personal issues, and they're like, I couldn't write all week. I didn't have a chance. And here I am going, woo, I got 5,000 words today. I'm like, ooh, I didn't mean to be an ass. Sorry.
But you can't hold yourself to another standard, okay?
Yeah.
And you can't hold yourself back because of if those basketball players, okay, say, I made a shot from half court. Okay, that's fantastic. Now, someone who has a physical disability may not be able to make a shot from like right underneath the basket. But does that mean that you shouldn't try to make that half court shot? No, you should try it because you can, and we expect you to do it.
And I think you've got these people that are discouraged by the 5,000 words a day or whatever, but then you've probably equally got as many people that are encouraged because, see, somebody can write 5,000 words in a day.
Yeah.
I could probably do that too if I set my mind to it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's down to personal preference, how much you want to share. But I really think you're probably encouraging as many, with that as well. So, because they look up to you and they're like, look at how well she's doing. If I just, get in there and do it, it's possible.
Yeah,
and I do
if
think
I
that
post on
sometimes, and then
Facebook that I got 2,000 words today, and then you scroll back, and I haven't made a post about getting any words for 2 months. It's because I didn't get any words for 2 months.
Yeah, that's
right. But that's and I always worry about that. I worry about being arrogant. And my best friend told me, she says, listen, there's a difference between arrogance and confidence.
Very big
And I
difference.
said, okay, but I've been told a lot that I ride that line and that I'm arrogant. I've been told that a lot by a lot of different people. And she says, okay, here's your difference. Your difference is confidence is I did this and I can back it up with proof. Arrogance is I did this and there's no proof.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why would you say it if there's no proof? Well, people are arrogant and they say, well, I walked 5 miles today when I didn't walk a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
because 5 miles is the name of their dog.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is I worried about being arrogant and I got a little bit of pushback when I first came on the author scene. And I get that. I'm new, you know, and I would say things like, oh, well, I got 3,000 words written today because everybody else was posting their word count. Yay.
Yeah.
And they're going, who's this new author? Who does she think she is? And now I've got a little bit behind me. Not as much as Amy, not as much as Brian, not as much as Carl, not as much as you, Dan. Like I got some behind me. That,
all of us put together don't have as much as Stephanie Osborne.
That's true. That's
right.
true.
Yep.
Right. And I would never say that I'm better than anyone. It's just that I did better than I did yesterday.
There you go.
Like that.
Yeah,
That's
that's always good.
Celebrating that at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot in the way a message is delivered sometimes on how and it's the internet. You can't people take things however they want to take it, in whatever mood they're in when they read it. So you know, if you popped in and you were like, I am the best author ever, look at all of this that okay, that's going to come across as arrogant. But if you're like, wow, I'm so proud of myself today, I accomplished this, or I got this award and I'm just blown away. I'm honored that I was given this. That's not even humble bragging. That's just like, wow, I'm celebrating, celebrate with me.
Yeah.
You know, and you should be allowed to celebrate those things because those are big steps. There's a lot of people that don't make those steps. They want to, but they just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
These Fitbits, okay? There's an application that goes with the Fitbit, so it goes to your watch, and then you can join a group. And so your group is supposed to encourage you, to say, okay, I got 3,000 steps, and I see that you only got 2,500. Come on, let's take a walk, and then somebody who's got 5,000 steps is, saying, come on, you guys.
Let me help you reach your goal.
Yeah. That doesn't always happen, though, see, because people are people, and people.
Exactly.
This is first words out of my mouth. Psychology 101, when I taught that at the college, was people are weird. Okay,
that's what you're talking about.
Well, should I write that down? People are weird. Yes, write that down. Remember that because no matter what no matter what you think, no matter what you say, someone will take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I've had that a lot, and I've had to step back and go, okay, wait a minute. They're having a bad day, like Amy said. I don't know how they're coming at it. Have they, or they're frustrated with something. It's not me. It's not what I said. It's just their day and their attitude.
Yeah. And I've even caught myself reading something and going, wow. And then went, wait a minute. I need to step back a minute because I'm not in the right headspace for whatever they're talking about. And the last thing I need to do is comment when I'm not taking the right context or whatever it is. It's good to catch yourself too, because we all do it. We all have days where things aren't going right and we read something and then we're like, whatever, and we get in a mood and then there's a whole attitude that goes with it. And, it's being human.
Oh yeah. It's very difficult in the humor field because I will post something in my humor group that I thought was funny the way I heard it in my head, okay? But the way someone else reads it, they go, oh. So I posted something today about, oh, my back hurt and I got up, well, I'm just being funny, I had so many people say, oh my God, what's wrong with your back? What did you do? And I'm like, it was supposed to be funny. Really.
I broke it telling this joke.
I have to explain the joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
What a great joke, yeah.
The people have explained things to me, like Donna accused me of mansplaining, but they will go, now, that's not really the way that works, Carl. And I'm like, it's a joke. It was a play on words. Obviously you didn't get it as a joke. It's very difficult,
Humor is
especially
very subjective.
Yes, it is.
and in writing it's even and it's even harder to write it down. I mean, if I told you something, you could tell by my facial expression, oh, he's telling a joke.
Expression, voice inflection, tone,
And
none of that comes across in the written word.
Yes, and see, I was interviewed one time, and they asked me, "Are your books funny? Are there funny parts in your books?" And I said, not really. There's a couple of spots where I was able to write it in, and they were like, "Wow, because you're funny. Why wouldn't you write that?"
Oh.
Because writing it is different than being that
Popping
way,
it
or
out.
joking with your friends, or
Yeah.
explaining. And I can't. Well, I won't say can't. I haven't figured out yet the formula of my writing style to get that humor in there. Now, are there humorous parts of my books? Sure.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to conquer it yet to the point where I could write a rom-com.
Yeah.
And then there's the other half of that coin. Back in the day when there was no independent publishing, the big name publishers did not want humorous books.
Right. Unless
Because
it
they
was
were
a
afraid
super
they
book.
would not sell at all. And then people like Ron Goulart came along and said, yeah, they will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, even back in the 30s, people like S.J. Perelman were writing some great things. The members of the Algonquin Round Table were writing some terrific books. Max Schulman, even in the 50s, they were doing humor, but were they bestsellers? That's another matter. And I will say, this was my first book. It is humorous. I'm just going by what people tell me.
Very humorous.
But it's also my biggest seller too.
Yeah.
And if I had listened to everybody, I'd have been like, well, I guess I'm going to have to write something, grim and gritty and stuff. But I wanted to write that book, and that's the
Not
beauty of
everybody
what we
used to
do.
write the serious great American novel. That's not everybody's cup of tea,
Yeah.
I wouldn't read that anyway. It was a great American novel.
Well, there are a couple of writers now that I would read the Great American Novel just because I know it's going to be 800 pages and 6 generations of characters and so much background and
that's the classics.
I have enjoyed some of those. I have learned things from some of those writers that do that sort of thing.
Oh, I have to. Yeah. I can't see myself writing it though.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love the classics.
Well, no, my style would be, okay, I've got the 800 pages. I've got all the, and you know what it is? It's freaking backstory. Now, what can I do with the backstory?
Yes. Okay, that,
Yeah, I think working in journalism had ruined me for writing and probably reading those long works because I distill it down to
I couldn't remember.
Missioner. Yeah.
I love his stuff, but it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
I read Adventures in Paradise because it was a TV show when I was growing up with it. And I finally read the book. The book was fantastic. And I'm also thinking of like Roots by Alex Haley.
Yes.
That's an amazing book. I don't know if now I have the patience for that kind of thing. My lips would get exhausted.
Clavel's stuff with the Shogun.
Oh, Shogun, yes, that was good. That was good.
I mean, he's got an entire. It might as well be one continuous story.
Yeah.
Through 7 or 8 books that are 1.5 inches thick, and that's the paperbacks. So it's nice stuff. I can't write like that, but I can learn something from it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not much at a time, but
I think I appreciate that.
Really good at cliffhangers, and that's why people kept saying, "Well, what happens next? What happens next?" And that's how book 2 came about. They were like, "What happens next?" And I went, "I don't know. There was never going to be a book 2."
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the club.
I know exactly how to fix that, Keisha. Keisha. Michaela, you just go, well, nothing really happened for the next couple of weeks.
Well, and yeah, and my best friend was like, and no more of this ride off into the sunset crap. I'm like, well, I had to figure out how to end it because I wasn't ending it. I was just cliffhanger. And every chapter ended on a cliffhanger, and everybody was like, no!
And that's how I like to write. Good God, because I was raised watching the reruns of the old Saturday morning serials.
Yeah. Remember, the sun never sets on those who ride into it.
Exactly.
There you go.
You
Yeah.
just got to move really quick.
Well, I mean, it's important to make sure that when they end a chapter, they're looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
See, that's what I thought.
If things are wrapped up in a neat little bow at the end of chapter 4, what reason do they have to go to chapter 5?
Yeah, they can close the book and go make dinner. Like, no.
Yeah, so when I write, I try to write in a way that when they get to the end of a chapter, they're like, I just one more. I have to know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And I try to write the entire book that way. And I've been fortunate to have readers that have picked that up and went, I couldn't put this book down. I had one that sent me a message after reading Neurosis and said, I was literally brushing my teeth and trying to put on my pajamas and still read because I didn't want it to stop. I wanted to know what happened next. I think she said she went to bed at like 3 a.m. finally. And I'm like, I know you need your sleep for work. Please, it'll still be there in the morning.
Yes,
but the word will not change overnight.
You know,
the title was correct on that. It'll give you a neurosis.
But yeah, you know, it's the biggest compliment you can get is someone to tell you that they couldn't put your book down.
Yeah.
And that's my goal with every book. I want it to be unput downable.
Yes. That's why I coat all my covers in glue.
But which I think you actually said on the cover of Neurosis. I think.
Yes, I did. I did. I was
that you mixed glue in the ink so that you couldn't put it down.
Yes.
I want something snappy, a little sound bite of sorts.
That was good.
I love that book. No, something I did in Santa Sign and Volcanoes, it's something I picked up from a friend of mine named Doug Hubler, who wrote a book. But what he did was he would have the words at the is sort of a cliffhanger. Even if you can't get the situation to end and some sort of suspenseful note, once you get the reader to understand what you're doing, I would end one chapter with words or a phrase, and then start the next chapter with something similar. For instance, chapter 22 ends with Angelique pulled up her arm to serve as an improvised pillow, granted one that was covered with metal. Then, taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and woke up in another world. Chapter 24. This is another world, I'm telling you, Barry muttered into the phone. Another world entirely. And I did that through the whole book. Now, here's a little thing. I'm going to give everybody a little hint, and I've already written it. This book ends with the words fired up. Guess what 2 words will be in the first sentence of Volcano 2?
Yeah.
I've already got it written. So,
well, when I was talking to John about Neurosis, when we were, because I bounce all my ideas off him, one of the first things, and it's not going to give anything away, so I'll tell you, the book starts out with, "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." She's talking to her therapist. The book ends with a very similar, "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice."
Yeah.
So that was something
doesn't it? Oh,
we talked that out, and we were like, we've got to make it end very similar to the way it started.
Yes.
We've got to come full circle with this story.
Yeah.
Knowing that if we wanted to pick up for a book 2, we could, but if not, it was kind of wrapped up. Now, granted, the process of getting there changed a lot before it was all said and done.
Oh, yeah.
But we still kind of stuck with that premise of we start here and we come full circle when it's all said and done. So, I mean, it's one way to take a device and just make it work for you. Make that phrase or whatever be your key to revolve around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was good.
I was thinking.
I'm sorry.
Thinking,
I'm struggling with this next book that's coming out because there's a scene in my head that I cannot let go of. And it's her as a mechanic. She works as a mechanic and a bartender. Okay? So there's this scene as her as a mechanic, and basically you just get a look at the day in her life. And she goes from the mechanic job to the bartender job, just straight on. And Keith follows her. Keith is like her protector. And I started the book with his view of her. Like, he's reminiscing about, I've been watching this girl for a month, and she's the most boring person I've ever met in my life. And so we go into the story that way, and I'm like, okay, so if he meets her at the bar that Friday night when she walks in to go to work, and they meet there, and that's where the story starts, how the hell do I get this mechanic job part of it in there if stuff goes down at the bar that very first night? Because I can't start my book boring. I don't want to just say, oh, she went to the bar and it was, it's a typical night, you followed her around, made sure she.
Yeah.
So something's got to happen there. So then how do I bring that mechanic thing in?
You have written the scene already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a matter of deciding how to edit.
Kind of like where it fits.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you need to chop the mechanic stuff and put it in later as a flashback.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, I don't like flashbacks, but it works.
Sometimes it works. Yeah, if you do it right, it works.
Depending on the story.
Yeah. When I was doing Mad Gasser, okay, the whole thing was that something would happen in the current time, which was the 80s, and then it would go back to something that happened maybe in the 70s. So there was this time period, and Donna had the good idea of saying, well, let's put, instead of chapters, put the date that things were happening.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
I was like, duh, of course, because some of the things happened out of order. Okay. And they had to, because the first time he does his thing is not where the reader starts.
Yeah.
The reader comes in with the second or third crime, and then we go back and we find out why he did that crime. Because there was a reason why he did it.
Yeah, that was well done.
Oh, thank you. Now this next one happens, the sequel happens all in current time.
So it's chronological.
It's 2022. 2022, and all this stuff's happening. Now what do I do? He says, well, you have to put chapters in here because you keep going back from the town of Washburn, where all the stuff occurred, where all the victims still live, and Arizona, where one of the victims moved and the guy followed her. So how to tell, what, and she had the brilliant idea of each time you go back to the hero, anti-hero, villain, whatever you want to call him, every time you go back to him, that's a new chapter.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's another brilliant idea. She's pulled me out a couple times. It's good to have another writer in the house to bounce these things off of.
Yeah.
But she's like, no. Every day, new day for him, we'll start with a new chapter. So, that gave it a structure to put. And since she did that, I mean, it made a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
He follows her there?
He followed her there.
Did you make that plain in what I've read so far? Because I don't get that.
It happened at the very end of the first book. When he takes off at the end of the first book, he says, where shall I go with my truck and my trailer? Oh, I hear that Cheryl moved to Arizona. I hear it's nice.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. And then it picks up with him living in Arizona, not far away from her, but he has left her alone for 20 years, and now he's ready to not leave her alone.
So that might be something, Carl, that you want to subtly add into your first chapter of the new book to make sure people recall, oh, that's right. At the end of the last book.
And for the people that haven't read the first book to be able to pick up on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've tried to write it as a standalone. It pulls back and looks at what happened in the past. So that people can kind of pick up the pace and go, oh, okay, this is what's happened.
Which makes what they're saying even more important, that you get that in there somehow.
Yeah.
In the first chapter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you talk also.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
You know, series I used to read like a lot of those men's adventure books
Mhm,
back in the
mhm.
70s and 80s. You know, the
Mhm.
Death Merchant, the Executioner, etc. And it was one called The Chameleon. That was only lasted for 3 books, but the first chapter was always the title character was in a death trap. An inescapable death
okay.
trap, and he's about to meet his end at the end of chapter 1. Then chapters 2 starts with a flashback, and the book from there tells you how he got up to that point. Then about 85% of the way through the book, it picks up again with the death trap, and rather than rehashing it, it's like, okay, he's pushed into the death trap, and then he starts the next chapter. He's about to die. Then he figures out how to get out, and then they wrap up the book.
Yeah.
In the last, 15% of it.
Yeah.
So,
So you've got here's where it's at, and then like 3 days earlier.
Yeah.
And then they go on with the rest of the story. Yeah.
Well, there is a part in chapter 7 or 8 where he says, "Why the hell did I follow this woman?" So maybe that's where it needs. Maybe that's where it needs to start. Why the hell did I follow this woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Kind of starts working through the process in his head.
A preface, just a single page.
Yeah.
Why the hell did I follow this woman?
Yeah, it wouldn't take much to just be like
thought processes, and then you jump to the first chapter.
Why did I follow her? I had a good setup back in so and so, and what was I thinking when, just it wouldn't take much just to kind of set that up.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
I like that idea, Dan.
The psychological aspects of it too. At the same time.
Yeah.
Rogers Zelazny wrote a book that was very influential for me, and it's called Road Marks. The entire action of the book takes place in about 5 days, but there's like 15 or 16 chapters, and some of them happen at the same time on the same day, but to different characters. You can read it. You can read it from cover to cover, or you can read each day as it happened by skipping chapters.
Okay.
It happens at the same time. It's one of those things where you get to the end of it and you absolutely hate the guy because he's so freaking brilliant to write.
Yeah, I've read a few of those.
You son of a bitch. I wish I could.
Just be like, I really want to be mad at you right now, but this is too good to actually be angry.
Oh my God, yes.
Well, if you know Zelazny, I mean, he can write so many different styles.
I
even found just a straight up spy thriller that he had written that nobody knew about, but till after he died, and then they published it. When they found it in his desk or something, just the manuscript put away that he never even bothered to try and send out. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Amy heard me all the way over here, but there were a couple nights when I was like, "Dang you, Amy." Because it would be getting late. I want to go to bed, but then neurosis was there, and it was like, I cannot read this next chapter where she goes in the basement because I know something is going to happen down there, and that's going to sit on my brain all night. I'm not being able to sleep,
or you'll dream about it all night long.
Exactly.
Oh,
but the anticipation keeps you up too.
Yeah.
I've got to ask Donna something.
What?
Did you ever finish the first story in that one of mine you were reading?
The Mari Inebrium.
Yeah, Mari Inebrium. Yeah.
Man,
everybody tries to say it in Latin. I never do.
Okay.
I think you're in that now, aren't you?
I'm on the second. Yeah, no, maybe on the third. I'm on the one where the one guy's talking about when he was taken as a captive and had to be a gladiator.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce those words, those names.
Really? I don't have any trouble pronouncing them.
Of course you don't.
Well, yeah.
I can even get the tongue in there to in the middle of some of them.
Well,
Hey,
I did notice though you have one story where the narrator has witnessed the hiring of Bruce the bouncer,
yeah.
and the very next story, he's looking at Bruce going, "That's a bouncer. He doesn't look like a bouncer. Like he's never seen him before."
Well, they're different narrators.
I kind of wondered that.
Oh,
There's 5 or 6 different narrators.
I kind of wondered that. It's not obvious that there are, but there seem to be a little bit.
Well, I try and have them
Difference.
introduce themselves to the bartender because he's the mainstay there.
Means, yeah. But it's so, oh yeah. I'm liking
we have
it.
been at this an hour and a half, guys.
Ooh,
So
Wow.
You're right. We're
Oh,
just
wow.
starting. We're just warming up.
Yeah,
I know, right? Like we could go all
we
night.
gotta beat Keisha's record from last night.
No, we don't. No.
Yeah,
No, you
No.
have to beat my
I'm
record with
tired.
Bobby Nash.
I'm pretty sure
No,
Amy's
no.
got
16
work
hours.
tomorrow.
5.
I'm going to take a kiddo to work. So yeah.
I have a
Understood.
breakfast date before the snowstorm comes in.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah.
So yeah, we better end the broadcast. So
And
Okay.
hopefully, I don't know what these people are going to do Wednesday. My niece's mother-in-law died, and the visitation is tomorrow night, and the funeral is Wednesday morning. And they have moved the ice and snowstorm up to starting after 9 o'clock on Tuesday night. And
Yep.
I don't know what they do in that sort of case.
They keep the corpse in cold storage until everybody can get there.
Yeah.
Actually, if they have a backhoe, they have a warmer for the soil that will warm it down to about 3 feet, and then they use a backhoe. And by the time they get that thing dug out, they're warmer than everyone outside because they're not in the wind. I used to work at a cemetery.
that's right.
Mortician's assistant.
Well,
Leave it to Brian. He knows everything.
The thing I'm really worried about is it's being held in the little town of Potomac north of us because that's
I
where
know
she's originally from,
Yeah.
and nobody lives anywhere. The closest relative is Bismarck.
Wow. Holy cats.
So we've got to
So-
travel to the funeral and back. Yeah, that's going to be
In the
difficult.
ice.
In the
That's
snow,
gonna be a
in
mess.
the ice. Yeah.
Yeah.
They might have the funeral service and then interment later.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They have done that before.
Yeah.
Or service at the cemetery.
Well, I mean, it's getting up there for the funeral service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Right.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so we will end the broadcast. If you don't want to stick around, we can chat. But like I said, we've all
Okay.
got stuff to do tomorrow. So
Well, thank you for having us again.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Thanks
well,
for
thanks
having
for
us.
coming. It's always fun. We always learn something. So